I never thought I'd be the girl sitting in a half-empty apartment surrounded by past due notices, but here I am. Let me just say, relationships aren't supposed to end like this. I'm Kaylin, 29, and I'm about to tell you how my perfectly crafted life plan completely fell apart. When I met Lyndon at my friend Alara's housewarming party, I knew he was different. Not like my disaster ex Riker, who couldn't keep a job at the warehouse for more than 3 months and always needed just $50 till payday. Lyndon had that look pressed button down. Nice watch. That confident smile of a guy who wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. I made sure to come across as this strong, independent career woman that night, laughing extra loud at his jokes, mentioning my promotion at the office. Men love that whole I don't need you vibe. Makes them want to prove you wrong. Truth is, I was so tired of struggling. After Riker left me with 3 months of back rent and a maxed out card, I promised myself my next relationship would be different. My mom always said, Kaylin, find a provider before you get too old, and for once I was taking her advice seriously. Our first dates were everything I'd been missing. He paid without me having to do that awkward reach for my wallet, suggested nice restaurants where entrees were actual entrees, not appetizers pretending to be meals. What I didn't tell anyone was how I'd started moving my tips from my weekend gig into a separate account Lyndon didn't know about. Just a little cushion, you know? A girl's got to look out for herself. By month 3, I was staying at his place 4 nights a week. Why pay for heating my crappy apartment when his place was twice as nice? When he gave me a key, I took it as a sign to bring over more stuff. Men like Lyndon want to feel needed, like they're solving your problems. It's like a weird turn-on for them or something. The first time I noticed the shift was around month 4. We were lying in bed and he started getting handsy, but I was exhausted from a double shift. When I pushed his hand away, I felt him stiffen beside me. We haven't really been intimate much lately, he said, his voice doing that careful thing men do when they're trying not to sound needy. Is something wrong? That's when it hit me. We'd fallen into a pattern. He paid for dinner, bought me things, let me stay over, and expected sex as, what? Payment? The thought made me feel gross. What I didn't expect was the conversation 2 weeks later. I feel like we need to talk about our relationship, Lyndon said one night while we were watching TV. He muted the show, never a good sign. I feel like things are uneven between us, he said carefully. You stay here most of the time. I cover most of our expenses, which is fine, but are you seriously suggesting I'm with you for your money? I said it loud, indignant, the way you need to when someone's getting too close to a truth you're not ready to admit. Because if you're expecting me to, perform on command because you bought dinner, that's really messed up, Lyndon. He backpedaled immediately, apologized for his timing, offered to help if I needed anything. Crisis averted, but something had shifted, and we both felt it. A week later, my boss called me into her office. The write-ups, the customer complaints, the late arrivals, it was all adding up. I wasn't being team-oriented enough, whatever. I saw the writing on the wall and quit before she could fire me. Why stay at a job with a boss who clearly had it out for me? I didn't tell Lyndon right away. Instead, I started leaving the apartment when he thought I was going to work, spending my days at coffee shops or the mall, coming home at the regular time. The small amount I'd been skimming from his wallet when he was showering helped cover my coffee and lunch. Not stealing, just a relationship tax, you know? The perfect opportunity came when Lyndon mentioned a possible promotion that would require more hours but mean better pay. That's amazing, babe. You totally deserve it, I gushed over dinner. Then, carefully, I've actually been thinking about taking a break from work myself. Maybe look for something I'm more passionate about. The hesitation in his eyes was brief, but unmistakable. Still, Lyndon, the provider, nodded. If that's what you need, just, be mindful of your expenses while you're not working. I smiled, relieved. Of course, I'm super good at budgeting. Another stretched truth. My savings would cover maybe 3 weeks of basic expenses. But by then, he'd be used to covering things. Men adapt when you give them time. That night, he initiated again. I turned away. Headache, I murmured. His sigh was audible in the darkness. What I didn't know then was that this would become our new normal. Him reaching out, me pulling away. Him paying for everything, me finding reasons why intimacy just wasn't happening tonight. It wasn't a conscious strategy at first, but it became one. Why should I have to perform just because he paid for dinner or covered my phone bill? A real man provides because he wants to, not because he expects something in return. At least, that's what I told myself as my temporary break from working stretched on. Lyndon never directly called me out, but the questions started coming more frequently. How was the job search going? Had I considered this industry or that company? I didn't realize how dangerous this game had become until the night I overheard Lyndon on the phone in his home office. I don't know, man, I heard him say, his voice low. It's like we're living separate lives under the same roof. A pause. No, it's not just the physical stuff, though that's basically non-existent now. It's everything. She quit her job months ago, claims she's looking, but I never see her actually applying anywhere. I'm covering all the bills, all our dates, everything. Another pause? Longer this time? Yeah. Dr. Answorth said, it sounds like financial exploitation, but that seems extreme. We're in a relationship, not a... Yeah, exactly. Dr. Answorth. A therapist. My stomach dropped. I realized Lyndon had been discussing our relationship, discussing me with someone else, and using terms like financial exploitation. Please. As if taking care of your girlfriend is some kind of crime. That night, lying next to him in bed, I realized I needed to make some changes. Not to be a better partner, but to secure my position. If Lyndon wanted to keep me around, and he did, I was sure of it, he needed to accept that providing was his role. Period. No strings attached. I spent the next morning planning my approach. Lyndon needed to understand how things worked in a modern relationship. My friend Sloane's husband covered everything for her bills, shopping, vacations, and didn't whine about it. Sloane had been married 3 years and just got a new SUV for her birthday, so clearly she knew something about making relationships work. That weekend, we were having brunch when I decided it was time for the talk. I think we need to be clear about expectations, I said, leaning forward. Like, what we want from each other. I believe relationships have natural roles. You're the provider type, right? Stable, successful, generous. That's who you are. His expression was hard to read, but he was listening, and I bring other things to the table. Emotional support, making our place feel like a home, being your person. Relationships aren't 50 divided by 50 inches every category. They're more like complementary. Complementary, he repeated, his tone flat. Exactly. So this whole pressure about me finding a job right away or feeling like I owe you things 'cause you pay for dinner, that's not how healthy relationships work. Lyndon was quiet for so long I started getting nervous. Finally, he said, so, just to be clear, you want me to financially support you completely, with no timeline for when you'll contribute again? And you also don't want me to expect physical intimacy as part of our relationship? When he put it that way, it sounded so transactional. I want us to stop keeping score, I corrected. You provide financially because you care about me, not because you expect something in return. That's real love. Kaylin, relationships are partnerships. Both people contribute in multiple ways. Yes, finances might not be equal, especially right now, but there needs to be balance overall. What other stuff exactly? His voice had an edge I wasn't used to, because from where I'm sitting, I'm covering all expenses while you contribute. What? You're not working. Household chores are minimal since you're tired most days, and intimacy is apparently something you feel pressured about. I pulled my hand back. Wow, if you're keeping a scorecard, just say that. It's not a scorecard, he said, his voice tense but controlled. It's reality. I'm trying to understand what you're bringing to this relationship that balances out your expectations of me. That night, he slept in the guest room. I told myself it was just a cooling off period. Except Lyndon didn't sulk. He became pleasant, polite, distant. He stopped initiating any physical contact, stopped suggesting date nights. It was like living with a polite roommate. 2 weeks after our brunch conversation, Lyndon came home with news. I got the promotion, he said, hanging his jacket by the door. That's amazing! I went to hug him, but his body language kept me at a distance. We should celebrate. Thanks. But I already have plans tonight. Team celebration. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Don't wait up. When he came home that night, late and smelling faintly of whiskey, I was waiting up despite his instructions. Lyndon met me directly. Kaylin, I think we need to talk about our living situation. My stomach dropped. What about it? I think it's time you found your own place. The words didn't compute at first. Are you breaking up with me? Over one conversation about money? It's not about one conversation. His voice was steady, resolved. It's about what that conversation revealed. We want fundamentally different things. You made it clear you expect me to financially support you, while feeling no obligation to contribute to our relationship in ways that are important to me. You can't just throw away a year together over this. I love you. Something flickered across his face, doubt, regret, but it hardened again quickly. I need a partner, not a dependent. I've given it a lot of thought, and this isn't working for me anymore. Is this because of that therapist, Dr. Answorth? I demanded. What has she been telling you? She's helping me recognize unhealthy patterns, he said quietly. Something I should have done months ago. I switched tactics, moved closer, touched his arm. Baby, we can work through this. I'll start looking for jobs tomorrow, for real this time. He stepped back. It's too late, Kaylin. My decision is made. I'll give you 2 weeks to find a new place, and I'll even help with your first month's rent as a courtesy. But this relationship is over. I didn't sleep that night, or much of the next week. I alternated between begging, accusing, bargaining, and finally, planning. If Lyndon thought he could just discard me, he had another thing coming. My first strategy was to make Lyndon jealous. I started accidentally leaving my phone where he could see notifications from male friends, stayed out late without explanation. Lyndon's response? Absolutely nothing. He doesn't even care where I'm going, I complained to Sloane over drinks. It's like he's already checked out. Sloane sipped her wine thoughtfully. Have you considered that maybe he's seeing someone else? Men don't usually walk away unless they have a backup. I became obsessed with uncovering Lyndon's supposed affair. I started checking his phone when he was in the shower, searching for unfamiliar numbers or suspicious texts. Nothing. I created a fake Instagram account to monitor his activity. Nothing there either. As the 2-week deadline approached, my tactics got more desperate. I forgot to look at apartments, thinking he'd extend my stay out of guilt or obligation. Lyndon remained unmoved, calmly repeating that my time was running out and I needed to find a place. 3 days before my move-out date, I still had nowhere to go. My emergency fund, the money I'd skimmed from Lyndon, plus my meager savings wouldn't cover first and last month's rent plus security deposit anywhere decent. That night, I tried my final tactic. Seduction. I put on the lingerie Lyndon had bought for my birthday, fixed my hair and makeup, and waited in the bedroom with candles lit. His expression when he saw me wasn't desire. It was pity. Kaylin, don't, he said quietly. This isn't going to change anything. Is there someone else? I demanded. Just be honest. No, he said, and I believed him. Somehow that made it worse. He wasn't leaving me for another woman. He was choosing to be alone rather than be with me. Then why? Really? What did I do that was so terrible? Lyndon sighed, ran a hand through his hair. You want a provider, not a partner. I want a relationship based on mutual respect and contribution. We're fundamentally incompatible. So this is about sex, I said bitterly. Because I wouldn't put out whenever you wanted. It was never just about sex, he replied, a flash of anger in his voice. It was about your entire attitude. The entitlement, the manipulation, the lying. Lying? When did I lie? About looking for jobs, about where you spent your days, about forgetting your wallet every time we went out, about needing money for things you never bought. He shook his head. Did you think I didn't notice the cash disappearing from my wallet? Or charges on my credit card for things that never seemed to exist? My face burned. I was borrowing. Taking without asking isn't borrowing, Kaylin. It's stealing. I spent the next day in a panic, calling every apartment in my price range. Nothing was available immediately. There was one option I'd been avoiding, Riker's brother, Corbin. He'd always had a thing for me, even when I was with Riker. He owned a decent condo across town, separated from his wife for the 3rd time, and I knew he'd let me stay. The price wouldn't be monetary, but I was running out of options. On Friday morning, Lyndon left for his business trip after an awkward goodbye. The movers will be here at 10 on Sunday. Here's the first month's rent I promised. He handed me an envelope with cash. After he left, I opened the envelope. There was enough for 1 month in a basic apartment. Nothing more. Just the bare minimum he'd promised. That evening, I met Corbin at his condo. He'd made some attempt at dinner, overcooked pasta and store-bought sauce, but I could tell food wasn't his priority. After one glass of wine, his hand was on my knee. "We broke up," I said, trying to sound sad. "His loss," Corbin replied, moving closer on the couch. "Always thought you were too good for him anyway." I forced a smile. "Actually, I'm kind of in a bind. Need a place to stay for a bit while I find a new apartment. Any chance your spare room is available?" Corbin's smile widened. "For you? Always. Stay as long as you need." The implication was clear in his eyes. I ignored the sick feeling in my stomach and thanked him, saying I'd move in on Sunday. It was just temporary, I told myself, just until I figured things out. Sunday came faster than I'd expected. I watched numbly as the movers Lyndon hired packed my clothes, my few pieces of furniture, my personal items into their truck. 3 hours later, they unloaded everything into Corbin's spare bedroom. He hovered in the doorway, offering unwanted help, his eyes lingering too long when I bent to unpack boxes. "Make yourself at home," he said for the third time. "We're going to have fun, you and me." I forced another smile. "Thanks again for this. It's just until I find my own place." "No rush," he replied, finally leaving me alone. 2 weeks into my stay with Corbin, the situation was deteriorating fast. My temporary arrangement came with increasingly clear expectations. My job search was going nowhere. My references from my last position were lukewarm at best, and explaining my employment gap was awkward. Corbin said one night after I'd received another rejection email, "You could always work at Dusty's with me. Bar's always hiring servers. Tips are decent." Dusty's was the dive bar where Corbin worked security on weekends, exactly the kind of place I'd sworn I'd never end up. But beggars can't be choosers. That night, I finally broke down and called my mom. We hadn't spoken in months, not since I'd told her how well things were going with Lyndon and how he was taking care of everything. Pride had kept me from admitting the truth. "I was wondering," I continued, "if I could maybe borrow some money? Just to get back on my feet. First and last month's rent, security deposit. I'll pay you back as soon as." "Honey," she interrupted, her voice gentle but firm. "Your father and I are on a fixed income now. We just don't have extra to lend." Her words stung because they held a grain of truth, but I wasn't in the mood for life lessons. "Fine. Forget I asked." I hung up before she could respond. I was scrolling through Facebook when a post from our mutual friend Alara appeared. "Congratulations to the happy couple," she said. Yes. Attached was a photo of Lyndon and a blonde woman, her hand extended to show an engagement ring. They were on a beach somewhere, both tanned and smiling. I nearly dropped my phone. Engaged? It had been barely 2 months since our breakup, and he was already engaged. My first training shift at Dusty's was even worse than expected. The uniform I was given was a size too small, deliberately, I suspected, based on the manager's smirk when he handed it to me. The regular customers were handsy, the other servers were cliquish, and by the end of the night, my feet were killing me, and no tips since I was in training. A week into my new Dusty's routine, I was physically and emotionally drained. The tips were inconsistent, some nights decent, others pathetic. I'd started applying for room rentals but kept getting turned down when they ran credit checks or asked for references. Corbin's patience was wearing thin. He'd started forgetting to knock before entering my room and making more explicit comments about working out our arrangement. I kept deflecting, but I knew I was on borrowed time. The next morning, I woke to pounding on my bedroom door. Corbin, clearly drunk despite the early hour, was demanding to be let in. "We need to talk about the arrangement," he slurred. "Time's up, Kaylin." I glanced around the room frantically. I had nowhere to go, not enough saved for my own place, no friends willing to take me in. The doorknob stopped rattling. "Fine," Corbin muttered. "But you're out by the weekend if you don't figure something out. I'm not running a charity here." I heard him stumble away. 5 days. I had 5 days to find another place, or face the consequences. One landlord agreed to meet me that afternoon. A basement room in a house shared by 5 college students in the worst part of town. The room was awful, tiny, with one small window near the ceiling. The shared bathroom was filthy, and the college kids clearly partied regularly, based on the empty bottles everywhere. But the landlord was willing to waive the credit check if I paid an extra security deposit. I handed over nearly all my remaining cash, desperate to secure the space. When I arrived at Corbin's, there was an unfamiliar car in the driveway. As I approached the front door, I heard female laughter inside. Corbin's estranged wife, Taryn, was back. From the sound of it, their on-again, off-again relationship was apparently on again. "Kaylin, come meet Taryn. She's moving back in." "Perfect. Just perfect." I forced a smile and entered the kitchen. Taryn was pretty in a hard way, her eyes narrowing when she saw me. "So, you're the roommate," she said, her tone making it clear she didn't believe the roommate story for a second. "Just temporarily," I assured her. "Actually, I found a new place today. Moving out tomorrow." "Today would be better," Taryn said bluntly. "I'm bringing my stuff over tonight." 2 hours later, I was moved into the basement room. If you could call a mattress on the floor and suitcases against the wall, moved in. I lay on the thin mattress, listening to the college students partying upstairs, and stared at the water stains on the ceiling. How had I ended up here? Was it Lyndon's fault for not understanding what men were supposed to provide in relationships? Was it Dr. Answorth's fault for planting ideas in Lyndon's head about exploitation? Or was it the thought crept in, unwanted my fault, for expecting someone else to fund my life without offering much in return? No, I pushed that thought away. I was the victim here. Lyndon was the one who'd changed the rules mid-game, who'd walked away when things got tough. Men were supposed to provide. That's how relationships worked. But as I drifted into uneasy sleep, a small voice whispered, "Then why are you the one lying on a mattress in a basement while he's celebrating his engagement on a beach?" It's been 6 months since that night. I'm still in that basement room, though I've upgraded from a mattress to an actual bed frame I found on clearance. Between 2 jobs, I'm working nearly 70 hours a week. My feet constantly ache, my back is in perpetual spasm, and my hands are cracked from cleaning chemicals. I haven't spoken to Lyndon since the breakup. I deleted all my social media accounts after seeing one too many happy photos of him and his fiancée. Corbin texts occasionally, usually when he's fighting with Taryn, but I never respond. The last blow came when I ran into Sloane at the grocery store. I was in my coffee shop uniform, hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, after a double shift. She was in designer workout clothes, fresh from a Pilates class. "Kaylin!" "Oh my gosh," she exclaimed, eyes widening at my appearance. "I've been trying to reach you. You disappeared from social media." "Been busy," I said vaguely, suddenly conscious of my chipped nail polish and the dark circles under my eyes. "Listen, I don't know if you heard, but Lyndon and Clara got married last month. Small ceremony in Mexico. Married already. The news shouldn't have hurt after everything else, but it did. A sharp pang where I thought I'd gone numb." "It's so crazy how things work out," Sloane continued. "Remember how I always said men should provide? Well, Brad and I are actually in couples therapy now. It turns out that mindset was really damaging our relationship. I've started my own business, a little online boutique. It feels amazing to contribute." The irony was almost too much. Sloane, who had encouraged my entitled attitude, was now happily working on herself and her marriage. That night, I finally allowed myself to face the truth I'd been avoiding for months. My situation wasn't bad luck or other people's fault. It was the predictable outcome of my own choices, my own entitlement, my own refusal to be an equal partner. I'd expected Lyndon to fund my lifestyle indefinitely while I contributed what, exactly? Not emotional support. I'd withdrawn that. Not partnership in building a future. I'd expected him to build it for me. Not even regular intimacy. I'd weaponized that as a tool for control. I wish I could say this story ends with complete transformation, that I've learned my lesson, changed my ways, and I'm building a healthy new relationship with someone who values the new me. But real life isn't that tidy. The truth is, I still sometimes find myself scrolling through dating apps, unconsciously evaluating men by their earning potential. I still feel a flash of resentment when I see women being taken care of by their partners while I work 2 jobs to barely make rent. Old patterns don't disappear overnight, and entitled thinking is a hard habit to break. But at least now, I recognize it for what it is. Here's what I know for sure. The philosophy I once embraced, "I don't owe him sex. He should just provide," cost me everything. Not because society is unfair to women who know their worth, but because relationships built on one-sided expectations aren't relationships at all. They're transactions. And transactions have terms that can be terminated when one party feels they're getting a raw deal. Lyndon wasn't the villain in this story for refusing to be my ATM. He was just a man with enough self-respect to walk away from someone who valued his wallet more than his heart. The only person truly obligated to provide for me is me. It's a hard lesson, learned the hard way, but maybe that's the only way some lessons stick.